Okay guys, this is going to be part one of the Predator 224 performance build, and we're going to be disassembling the rest of this rascal. Now if you guys remember from the last time, we had pulled the side cover off already, so I'm sure everybody knows how to do that, but if not, just review back through the other video. In order to get this cam out, I didn't show this in the last video, you got to get this thing around and line those two timing marks up to top dead center, and that cam will slide right out. Easy. This is the bearing side cover. I forgot to show you guys last time. And the other thing I wanted to mention, that block. Man, that thing is thick. Look at those side rails, and the wall thickness on that block is just incredible. I mean, it's a third more thicker than the regular Predator 212 block. Now I'm pulling these lifters out of here, and you know, you don't have to mark them, but I do. I prefer to do it that way, and that way I don't have to hire the lawnmower detective to investigate and tell me which one came out of where. And again, you know, it's just my preference to mark them this way. A couple of requests about information on this muffler. I'm gonna get this thing. We'll get this thing off. And you know, I did put a mic on it, and it doesn't seem. I didn't record the measurements, but it seems to be the exact same diameter pipe inside and out as the regular 212 Predator muffler, so I don't think there's any performance gains there. But you know, it was worth checking, because it's good to know stuff like that. Now, mainly what we're going to be doing during this disassembly, I'm going to be measuring some other parts in here, and we're not really going to be comparing to the 212. We're just mainly going to be comparing to the performance parts and figuring out exactly what we're going to need. Now we will be pulling the head off, and I've got to get this air cleaner off first. But I've already took the side cover off, guys. It's only, you know, 4 or 5 bolts, and they're all 10mm easy. You disconnect your 2 wires for your kill switch and your low oil shutdown, and that side cover just pops right off. And let's see, I have to remove these 2 little cool little chrome acorn nuts. We'll get them off of there. And see if we can't get this a DUCAR breather off of this bad boy. A little noisy out there, but that's okay. It's cold outside too. Whew. And let's see, I've got a couple of lines in here somewhere to get rid of. Let me pull this top off here real quick and see if I can see them down in there. Oh. All right, everything looks good on this side. And what it is, I've got 2 lines over there where my finger's at now, and I'm not showing you guys yet. There's a big line that's going to the valve cover. That's your valve cover breather. And there's a smaller line that's coming from the charcoal canister, our wonderful little emissions deal down below. And what I'm not showing you here, which I'll realize it here in just a second and try to turn the engine around where you guys can see what I'm doing too. I'm just removing the Yeah, there it is. A little clamp off that line there. And those will just slide back. Okay, sounds like they're coming to get me. Okay, I guess they missed out. We'll slide that off. I'm just using a flat screwdriver here, guys, just to get in behind there and just give it a little push. Comes off easy, both of them. And let's slide this breather off and get her out of the way. And those are those ports there, guys. And I raised the engine up here so you can see the bottom side where the little charcoal canister is at. I think what I'm going to do is just pull this. It's bolted to the shield, so I'm going to pull this little heat shield off. Be just a couple of bolts holding this thing on, and raise it up and just flip it back over the tank. And I'm just going to leave it in place, and I'm going to leave the tank in place because it's really not in my way. It's got fuel in it too, so I think I'll just leave her there. Doesn't seem to be bothering me. Let's see if I can get this out of the way. Alrighty, let's get this carburetor off here. Set my gasket to the side, and it's got a little fuel line here, this little pinch clamp. I'll just raise him up a little bit. Now this tank does have some fuel in it, so I'm going to pinch this fuel line off here so it doesn't come rushing out on me there. And then I'll disconnect it. A few drips is no problem. I'll stick a little side cover bolt or something up in here to just kind of plug that off so I can get my clamp back here in a minute if I need it. And these carburetors are exactly, it's not the same carburetor, but the linkage are all really, I mean, almost identical. It's just that little rod pushed down and held in with the spring. So, you know, it's all basically the same deal, guys. It's just a different brand carburetor than the other one. The other one is the 212 has a Ruizing carburetor, and this is a different brand. It says DUCAR on there, but you know, I think that's just a little laser etching. I don't know who makes this carburetor. And this is, I'm just getting this top linkage plate off here, guys. A couple of bolts. I think those are 8mm, and it's no big deal. If you've taken them off, you've seen this done a million times. And if you haven't taken it off, really, it's no problem. And I'm sorry I'm blocking you guys here. Get your arm out of the way so everybody can see. Nope. Okay, yeah. And that's really it. Once you get the couple of bolts out, you just unhook the governor spring on the bottom from the linkage and just lay it off to the side. It's really easy. And we'll get these valve cover bolts off here. Again, those are 8mm, and if you don't you can't find an 8mm socket handy, of course, you know, a 5/16 will work in a pinch. A little tap here. Well, that came off easier than I thought. I figured that valve cover gasket would tear up. No, it's stuck. They've glued it to the valve cover with something. I don't know. And my rockers are already loose because the I removed the lifters, and the push rods are down in the hole a little bit, so I'm going to fish those out. I'm going to start breaking these head bolts loose so I don't knock everything off the table. And here, I'm getting a little close to that spark plug. Let's see. Let's get that plug out of there. It's a brand new plug. I don't know if I don't want to break it. Depending on what it is, I hadn't even checked it out. And this is a LG plug. Well, I didn't know they made spark plugs. I thought they just made TVs, but sure. Okay. And we'll get these head bolts broke loose. And there's only 4 head bolts, guys. I don't think you guys need to see all that, so I'm just going to head and fast forward to it and show you me taking out the last head bolt. There's only 4, and they're all the same length, so you can't go wrong. And there's our dished piston. And it's just a regular non-Hemi type head, regular chamber. Valves are nothing too, standard size valves, nothing fancy. You don't have to mark everything, guys. Like Terrell says, it ain't the space shuttle. But, I kind of do. I like to know where everything's at and where it came from. It's just a habit I get into. So, everybody to each his own. And I had some questions about this carburetor, so I'm going to measure the butterfly side of the carburetor, and it looked like it's around, I think I ended up getting around 745 thousandths. I'm going to twist this, turn it a little bit. There we go. Yeah, around 745 on the diameter for the butterfly side. Now, the Ventura of the carburetor is a little smaller than that. I'm guessing it probably around 60 thousandths or so smaller. So you're probably looking around, I don't know, maybe 650, 660, something like that. And of course the choke side is really big. It's 930 some thousandths there in that one spot, but it really doesn't matter how big that is. If your Venturi is only around 650, 680 thousandths, and that's all the air you're getting through. Now this factory head gasket here, actually that's probably one of the only ones I've got off without breaking. It's turned out with the compression ring there, it was measured at 54 thousandths, and just the gasket itself measures at 50. So that's a 50 thousandths thickness head gasket. Now one of the parts that I've got for the upgrade is a Tillotson gasket, racing gasket. It's a 10 thousandths thick gasket. And I think when I measured, some people calls it the fire ring. It's just the compression ring goes around the cylinder. You'll get about 4 thousandths more on that. But when you measure out to the flat part of the gasket, it's right at 10 thousandths there. So I think that's going to be a good little performance mod right there. That's going to be the same as shaving the head about 40 thousandths right there with just that one change of the gasket. And we'll see if we can't get this rod and piston out of here. Now this is just the stock rod. The billet rod that I purchased to go in this was wrong. So I'm not even gonna talk about it. We're not gonna talk about part numbers or anything on that rod. I will give you the correct part numbers down in the description. And for the correct forged rod that you'll need to make this combination work. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to remove the stock rod and the dished piston, and we're going to go with a flat top piston, which is a little bit lighter piston too. Now this one, the piston that's in there, the Predator piston, it comes in weighing around 158 grams. Now the flat top that I'm going to put in there is 138 grams. So, you know, you're getting about a 20 gram savings there in weight. And that dipper too is really close to the bottom of the pan, guys, which I'm not going to use this stock rod. But if you're going to use a stock rod like on a governed application, I'll tell you what I like to do. I like to nip off, or not nip it, but grind off around a quarter of an inch or so, maybe a little less, or about 5 millimeter if you're thinking about metrics. Just down here where I'm just coloring the bottom of that dipper off. And what that does, that keeps it from contacting the bottom of the pan at higher RPM. And once it does that, if it does that, that dipper breaks off, and then next thing you know, you're not oiling, and there goes your engine. But for a performance engine, though, you want a forged or a billet rod with an insert bearing in there, and that's what we're going to go to. I'll just slide this dude up out of there. And this is a good looking piston. Those are the thin rings, and they feel like they're low tension rings. So this is a performance ring set on here, and I'm really liking that. The rod, man, that's a small rod. I did like the wrist pin, but that's where we ran into a little trouble. Now, this is the part number for the flat top piston, guys. Now, don't worry, you don't have to pause the video or anything. I'll have those part numbers for you in the description. And it's a flat top. I didn't really like the way they packed it. They just sent it laying on top of the rings, and of course, it's got a few scuffs on top. I'd rather have the top of my piston smooth rather than scuffed up. But, you know, for around, let's see, what was it? It was $19.99. And let's see, that's these little Chinese-made circlips that I absolutely hate. Just a little piece of wire, but that's okay. Now, I really did like this wrist pin. This is a very thin wall wrist pin, and you know, it's maybe not so great if you've got a heavy piston, but now I'm going to go lighter, so I wouldn't really be too concerned about that. I like the weight savings. Now, the flat top piston I've got here, what I'm fixing to find out here is that the flat top pin is 709 thousandths, and the pin in the 224 Predator piston, the dish piston, is 715 thousandths. Now, I'll put those specs down in the description, guys, so you don't have to memorize them or anything. Or but yeah, that would not work out of the box, so that's okay. We're not really going to use that stock rod anyway. And you know, the Predator pin looked pretty good, but the flat top pin, I really like it. I really do. It's a very thin wall pin, and yeah, it's showing right at 709 thousandths. And the Predator pin is 715. But also a good looking wrist pin. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to have to wait until I get my rod in, and I will put the specs for the rod and where to find that at down in the description. I did pick up a camshaft. Now this is the Tennessee Thundersticks 260 Bonsai 265 race cam, and it's just this mild a mild jump over stock performance. Mainly, you're only getting what, about 40 thousandths or so lift gain on this cam, but it does have a little bit more center line over stock and a little more duration, which is going to help on the RPM a little bit. The let's see, the intake lift is 263 or 264, and the duration at 50 is 233.5. The exhaust lift is 265 with the duration at 50 is 233. Now you do get new lifters, and it does come with 26-pound springs. I'll have the part numbers in the description down below. Thanks for hanging out with me.